If Jesus truly had the power to save, he would have saved the world. But what he did, he showed us how to save ourselves from ourselves.
Mm, mm.
Okay. And so you show, but only we can push the button. No one could
Yeah.
push it for us. If Jesus could have pushed the button for all of us, he would have done it. But
Mm.
he didn't, but he showed us how to save ourselves from ourselves. So it's us that have to rise up, recognize, and take responsibility for whatever's going on.
Welcome back to Lokumu Podcast. Today we are joined by Richard Waldman, creator of the Order to Life framework, which is a powerful approach to understanding how our minds work and how we can stop being controlled by the constant chatter in our heads. Now, Richard's work helps people separate themselves from their thought, gain greater clarity, and make more intentional decisions in both life and business. So in today's conversation, we are going to talk about why so many of us, get trapped in overthinking, self-doubt, and mental noise. And most importantly, what we can do about it. So, Richard, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you with us.
Well, that was a great introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm going to have you introduce yourself again. I know I gave a little bit of your intro, but it sounds greater when you say it by yourself.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I can articulate. I've been involved with coaching for a number of years, and along the line, how do I say, I discovered that our personality had evolved more than one direction. And as I got more and more into it, I realized that I, I am not my brain. And as I started developing this theory, I started moving out. I started teaching and talking in schools. I was involved with the prison system, helping people to understand that that's not who we are. And then the question was, well, who are we? And then I discovered that once again that our brain created the image in our head of who we are, not us. In other words, we didn't sit down and discuss with our brain who we are and how we're going to think and what we're going to value and all these kinds of things. It just kind of happened. So as I got more and more involved in this, I learned that our brain is very, very powerful, can create on its own. And unfortunately, much of what it creates is out of sync with the rest of the universe. How many times have we had thoughts that maybe are nefarious or not good thoughts, with that chatter in our head? It's got a goal of its own. It wants to keep us where we are or worse. It loves to take us in the wrong direction, and we don't question it because we've been educated to listen to it. Okay, and that's what you've heard. Someone would say, you've got to lose yourself to find yourself. Well, that's what that's all about. And so as I got more and more involved in it, I began to get into the particulars, that this is not who I am. And so then it's the discovery, then you have to go, well, who am I? And there's a saying I love: if you bring out what is within you, what you bring out will save you. If you do not bring out what is within you, which you do not bring out, will destroy you. Well, people some say, well, I'm not sure what's in me. Well, see, that's part of the journey. Discover what it is that you're, if you will, here for. What is it you're meant to do? What do you love to do? How is it that you maybe can go out and empower others based upon maybe some talents that you have? Maybe you haven't discovered them yet. But I believe, in order to live life, we have to know how to live it. And it's part of it is being able to step out of ourselves and discover who we are and get past our fears and all these other kind of things.
Amazing, amazing. That's so powerful. And yeah. So without taking so much time, um, if you are listening now, please stick around because it's gonna be a powerful episode. If you really want to change your life and if you really want to change how you see yourself, most importantly, you do not want to miss out. So we're gonna get right into it. So I got this question. Most people spend their entire lives listening to the voices in their head without questioning it, as you just mentioned now when you give out your introduction. And I want to know, why do you think that happens? And also for the people out there who may be struggling with that, why does this happens? Why do most people spend their entire lives listening to the voices in their head without questioning it?
Well, because we haven't learned, we haven't been educated otherwise. No one's really ever said, hey, by the way, that voice in your head that wants to take you in the wrong direction, that's not who you are. We need to question it. And what we don't understand, Glody, I developed a matrix. I don't know if you can you see this here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see it perfectly.
Oh, okay. And as I was getting involved with my work and coming up with these ideas, I thought, well, how can I communicate this? Not by words, but is there a diagram or something that I can put together that communicates what I'm talking about? And one of the most important things I learned, Lodi, is that our alter self, uh, the ego,
Yeah,
Sigmund Freud called it the ego. It stands for Latin for I, the self. It's judgmental by nature. In other words, when we live through this thing, that's why we judge everything all the time.
mm,
Turn on the news, it's all about judgment. Everyone's trying to make everyone else wrong so they can be right.
yeah,
Okay, but we're not aware of this. And so that's when I was able to come up with this matrix. So I'll get into it just real quick here. And I came up with, there's four parts that move us forward and four parts that hold us back. The part that moves us forward, for example, inside is number one, we've got to be aware. Aware of what? Aware that our personality has evolved in more than one direction. Number two, staying present. That's our point of power. The chatter in our head, Glody, loves to take us into the future and beat us up with what if questions we can't answer. What if you lose your job? What if you can't pay your bills? What if your wife leaves you? What if, what if, what if? And see, we don't have the answer. And when it tires of beating us up in the future, it likes to pull us into the past to remind us of all the mistakes we made and all the stupid things that we've said. Okay. And we don't realize our point of power is the present moment. Because all we have is the present moment, right now and right now and right now. I can't change in the future. I can't change in the past. I can only change and live life right now and right now and right now. And also, the chatter in your head and the present moment cannot exist at the same place at the same time. So when that chatter starts going off, you go, and you notice, hey, wait a minute, these are not good thoughts. I need to be present. So you bring your attention in, that's how into the moment, and that's how you manage it. Number three, making conscious choices, thinking through what you might create if you act upon not only for yourself, but others around you, if you act upon your current thinking.
yeah,
Number four, connecting. There again, what it is that you love. If you bring out what is within you, what you bring out will save you. And then the part that holds us back at the top, you'll see it's judgment. You cannot have a negative state of mind until you judge something. So the next time you're out or wherever you have that negative thought, take a moment, pause, and say, wait a minute, what am I judging right now? Well,
mm,
I'm judging that this is not working. But there again, we have to be conscious of what the chatter is telling us and knowing where our points of power are. It works once again with the chatter in our head. And now I show it going counterclockwise because it takes us in the wrong direction.
wow,
And one
yeah,
of the things it gives it power, it has the evidence. See, it knows what we believe, and it knows when we violate our own beliefs. How many times do we not do what we know to do? We know
yeah,
we should be good. We know we shouldn't be judgmental. We know we should be connecting to, we know these things, but we don't do them. And then we react usually if, excuse me, as far as when something, if I'm judging or whatever, and I'm going to react to what's going on, and as long as I do, I'm going to be living outside. Gee, what's I going to move this? I'm going to be living outside the circle.
Mm.
And that's what we do. We judge everybody all the time. We judge ourselves and everybody else. And as long as we're doing that, we're not living. We're not living. We're alive, but we're not really living life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have any questions about that?
I think that was amazing. That was amazing. You just said a lot, and you just put it so nicely. And a lot of the things, I mean, we ignore them. We don't really pay attention to them because we feel like, it's just normal, it's just the way life is. But in reality, it's slowly, dismantling our potential, our the way we see ourselves, and you know. So that was amazing. That was amazing, and that is a really powerful chat that you just put up. You put together. It's and the fact that it shows on the opposite direction. That's again create a lot of mental gymnastic for us to really think about it and trying to make sense of it in a proper way. So bringing us back, I mean, bringing us to go forward with that. Um, I want to ask you, at what point did you begin to realize that thought are not necessarily facts?
Well, I'm going to go way back. I was in sports, okay, gymnastics in high school and stuff like this. And I would see we had a couple individuals on the team. In practice, they were wonderful. But when the meet came, they could never hit their routine. And I thought, what's going on here? They're so good in practice, but when it was showtime, they would fall off the equipment and then blame the equipment. And so, and then I started getting even in my own stuff. Why did I do what I did? Why? I started thinking about it, and then I started thinking, why is it that humanity, all of us, we're so extraordinary. We have this incredible brain, takes us in the future and the past and all these things, but at the same time, we're confused, we're self-serving and destructive. Why is that? And so I started kind of peeling back, kind of like an onion. You start peeling back some of the layers, and I thought, who am I? But I mean, mankind has been suffered from the moment we became aware of ourselves, but we've never been told in a constructive way exactly what's going on. For example, when COVID-19 hits, oh, we got to find out how it works, how it functions, how does it get into the body, and when it gets into the body, what does it do? Well, was it 10% it affected 10% of the population, and we're all over it. Globally, we all suffer. We all suffer at different times, at different levels, over different things. But no one's ever told us why. And
Yeah.
I thought, if it affects all of us, and I'm no brainchild, Ben, I thought maybe I could figure this out. As crazy as it sounds, because it affects all of us. And so that's just started my journey. One thing led to another. As I got more involved, and I started and then when I was on the bout, started sharing with others some of these ideas. Well, the question that voice in your head, and there's also some particulars to this too. Although they're very powerful. The ego, I started thinking more about it. Well, why is it so powerful? What is it really doing? And the conclusion I came out, the ego, our alter self, has four needs. It wants us to fulfill, which we do. And this is not in any order. The need for us to project to the world the image in our head of who our brain thinks we are. Look at us. Look at me. I'm
Mm.
wonderful. Look how great I am. Okay. The other is this longing to be right. Don't we
Yeah.
all like to be right? Okay. And don't we all like to be in control?
Mm.
And last, one of the things that we do not like and avoid at all costs is being accountable.
Yeah.
Okay. We love to project our image, be right, have control, but we're never accountable. Glory, did you do that? Oh, not me. I think that's not me. And as long as we're not accountable, we're never going to change. Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden for judging, blaming, hiding, and not being accountable. What's changed? Nothing. We're still judging, we're still blaming, we're still hiding, and we're still not accountable.
Mhm.
And some of these things are so subtle. For example, the probably one of the most diabolical of all those is is the need to be right. And we do this all the time, not even being aware. For example, let's say, okay, we're friends, and you go, hey, Richard, look at this new shirt I bought. Hey, isn't this cool? And I look at it and I say, well, why did you buy that color? That's not who you are. Well, by me saying that, what I'm really telling you, I'm making you wrong for buying that shirt. I'm making you wrong for liking that color. But
Mm.
we do this all the time unconsciously. And so I try to make people conscious of what we're doing, what we're saying. How do we leave a conversation? Did we make it better? Did we empower that person? Or did we demean them? Did we make them wrong for how they live their life, even though they're not bothering anybody and they're happy? But we do. We minimize people that
Yeah.
way, and that creates divisions. And as long as I'm judging you, I'm actually creating the division between you and I, because I'm not saying, well, hey, that's a cool shirt. I can see why you like that. Good for you. These are these little dynamics that we do, and some of these push people away, and we're not aware of them. We're not aware of what we're saying because we're so cool and we want to be right and be in control. But in the long run, we're destructive.
Yeah, yeah. That's so powerful. And the way you just said it, it's kind of like leading me to another question that um what are some of the most common forms of mental chatter that quietly shape people's lives? Because what you just say, it kind of like relate to what this question is about, and you just said it so powerfully. Um, so yeah, so to lead us to go forward, so what are some of the most common form of mental chatter that
I
quietly
think the
shape?
most common by far is the one thing that we all, number one, is anxiety, being anxious,
Mm,
worrying, being nervous. And I think that's we all experience that.
yeah.
And I think that's one of the because the chatter in our head loves to take us into the future. And as I say, and beat us up with what if questions we can't answer. And as long as we do that, then we're not living our life. In other words, I can't think of doing anything creative or that's mindful as long as I'm angry, upset, and depressed. Right? I'm not going anywhere.
Mm,
But everyone is. We're all nervous. We're all neurotic. There's a Yiddish term called mashugana. We're all a little crazy. And
mm,
but that's how we've been educated to live our life, and we don't question it because we don't know any better.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is not rocket science. It's real simple stuff. But sometimes I have people tell me out loud, Richard, I hear what you're saying. It makes sense, but I don't want to do it. I want to stay there. I says, what do you mean? And one fellow says, well, he says, I live a kind of a quiet life. And he was kind of in a big family. And he didn't, care for some number, his family members that much. And he says, Richard, if I start acting well, they're going to probably start asking me to do things or get involved with them. And I don't want to. So, so if I break out of this, then become this person that you're telling me to do, my life can change in my mind in the wrong way. And so I understand it because, many times we want to protect ourselves. So
Yeah,
we kind of hang out and all these other things unconsciously. So it's just making people aware of these dynamics, how they work and how they influence us so we can make those conscious choices, to say, hey, I want to get out in the world. I want to do something. And the biggest thing is, you know what? I'm not going to be judgmental anymore because if things don't work out, I know I'm not going to get hurt. I know I'm not going to have to get out my checkbook.
mm,
And one thing that you will discover is that's how we learn though. See, the universe, if you long as you're doing what you love, you'll never fail. You'll say, yeah, but it didn't work. And I go, no, no, no. I says, the universe is just showing you something that didn't work, that you need to go in a little bit different direction. That's all. But that's how we learn because things are always changing too. The world is always changing, minute by minute, especially today in these times. So they go, oh, I never thought about that. As long as you're doing what you love, you're not failing. You're learning more about what you love to do.
yeah, true. True to that. Amazing. And listening to what you just said, it's so powerful and at the same time it's dangerous because some people don't really pay attention to these attributes and these little things that we can actually it's to use a technical words, I'll say this data it can help us grow even faster to accelerate our own growth if we do pay attention to this little data, you know. And this will lead me to ask you this question, which is one of the most asked question and most people struggle with it, is that why so many intelligent people and capable people still held back by their own thinking?
Because we're not aware. I mean, we have to be aware of what the dynamic, what's happening inside of our head. And our greatest mental asset, Clothy, is our imagination. And our greatest mental process is staying curious.
Mm,
And if you bring those two together, all kinds of magical things can happen because you're using your imagination, you're curious, you're learning, you're thriving, you're getting out there. And so, one of the things that when I'm working with people and if they're stuck, I mean, maybe they're on drugs or whatever it may be, one of the questions I will ask them, what do you love to do? What do you like doing? Yeah. And even for example, like veterans, they get them out working with animals or whatever, you know what I mean?
mm,
Because it's taking your mind off of you. Okay, so I try to plug into that. And well, why aren't you doing it? Well, gee whiz, I've been told over the years I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have what it takes. And I said, well, let's forget. See, but there again, they got the evidence
yeah.
because people, my mom, I told they have the evidence that I've told them I'm just not smart enough or good enough to do these. No, well, let's erase that. Let's say that never happened. Let's start from a fresh start, and let's pretend that never ever happened. So if you knew the answer right now as to what you want to do or would love to do, what would it be? Many times we know these things, but we're no one's ever questioned us to bring it to the surface, to the forefront. Oh, gee whiz, well, I like this or that. Well, if you were to start, what would you do first?
Yeah.
Oh, gee whiz, I would do this. So many times we know what to do or should be doing, but we have not been allowed the space or the guidance or the coaching to say it's over here or try this, do this. You know, when I was in gymnastics, the first thing you learn is to keep your legs straight and point your toes. Okay. Well, when you're flying around, you can't see yourself. You don't know when we call breaking form. When you break form and your legs are flying around, and because I learned early on, it's simpler to do a routine or a stunt with good form than it is with bad form.
Mm,
Same with life.
yeah.
It's easier to go through life if you have good form, okay, versus poor form. Are you thinking? Are you measuring things right? Are you judging yourself? Things of that nature. So it's these little things, but there again, you've got to be mindful of it. And and also you've got to want it.
Mm,
You've got to want to break out. You got to want to give up the drugs. You've got to want to do these certain things. It's how many leaders, spiritually or otherwise, they show us where the button is, but they can't push it. Only we can. We hear the term, for example, in Christianity, Jesus saves.
yeah.
Well, okay, and when I'm talking to somebody, and let's say they are a Christian, I say, well, how does Jesus save you exactly? Well, they're kind of stuttering, or, not quite sure. And I said, well, let's clarify this. I says, if Jesus truly had the power to save, he would have saved the world. But what he did, he showed us how to save ourselves from ourselves.
Mm, mm,
Okay. And so you show, but only we can push the button. No one could
yeah.
push it for us. If Jesus could have pushed the button for all of us, he would have done it. But
Mm,
he didn't. But he showed us how to save ourselves from ourselves. So it's us that have to rise up, recognize, and take responsibility for whatever's going on.
mm. That is really, really powerful. That is really powerful. And I really hope that you are watching right now, you understand this concept because it's so powerful, especially the part that you mentioned that these, no one else can save us but ourselves. We have to, we have to understand that. And it's so difficult. I don't understand why it's so difficult for most people to understand it, but it's so simple. I mean, you are responsible for your own life. I guess this is one of the most um, chaotic and destructive understanding or idea that's breaking our society now. No one want to take, no one want to be held accountable. They don't want to take responsibility. We always think of, um, whatever I do today, it doesn't matter what's going to happen tomorrow. Somebody else is going to fix it for me. No, you have to take responsibility. You have to do what what you can and what is required from you in order to move um, yourself forward or to contribute to other people's life. So it's very important. Thank you for mentioning that. Um, yeah, and it's just a reflection for myself. It's like many of us, many of our struggle, are not really caused by circumstances themselves, but the way, or let me rather say, but by the meaning our minds, attached to those circumstances. There's a saying that I always like by Epictetus. He always say, you know, men are disturbed by not by things, but by the views which they take of them. I found it a little bit powerful because it's true, and I also added my little source of that quote to say that, the problem is not really the problem. The problem is how you're looking at the problem.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very powerful what you just say. So moving on, um, you often say you are not your brain. What does that
Correct.
actually mean in practical terms?
It means that well, because we have that voice in our head. See, that's the thing. Our brain communicates with us. It talks to us. Okay. And that's a very tight relationship that we have. And the ego, how do I say, is has a mouthpiece, which is the chatter in our head. Now, the chatter in our head can also be powerful and can be good. Okay. But there again, see, the ego wants to keep us where we are, and the ego doesn't want to die. Okay? For example, the ego is fearful that if I change a belief, I might change another one, and then another one, and then the next thing you know, I've changed. The ego has changed itself out of existence. See, it doesn't want to die. It wants to live too. Okay, and now it gets in situations though
Yeah.
for example, I'm a vet and I've worked with veterans in the past, and they say what 20 or 25, 21 or 20 veterans commit suicide every day. And having been in the military, I understand because there's a closeness that you develop with your camaraderie. It's just because you're away and all you have is each other, and you
Mm.
learn to depend each other and love each other. And when you come back in society, you don't have that.
Yeah.
You don't have that where people are really involved with you, want to take care of you, and all these kinds of things. And you're very personal, and you know each other. So it doesn't happen. So you all of a sudden this loneliness sets in.
Mm.
I can't talk to anybody. I don't know anybody. I don't trust anybody. And so we have to be aware of what is going on and the fact that, that chatter in my head doesn't want me to be happy. It
Mm.
wants to keep me where we are. And it wants to live too. And
Yeah.
as long as we keep doing what we're doing, we give it life. And the question is to um, trying to evolve past this. And things will always happen in life. Negative things will always happen. And usually we get sucked into it and it starts to rot. Then we're chasing something. It robs us of life. And my contention is, or I try to show someone, is that peace is the highest level of consciousness. It's the only state of mind that shares common ground with the universe. Well, the question comes up, well, Rich, how do I be at peace if something, when bad things are happening?
Mm.
Good question. As you learn this dynamic, you learn it's possible to say, you know what, this negative thing popped up, but you know what? I can't solve it if I'm not at peace.
Yeah.
So the question is, can I be at peace and still deal with this negative thing? Yes. And they find out that they can. They
Mm.
can, in a sense, almost be two places at once. So I can still find peace in myself, is even though this negative thing has popped up in my life. And that's what real power is about. That, in other words, as long as I know that my brain is not who I am, it gives me the power, that dynamic to do that.
Mm.
Because now I see, what's really going on is that peace is the prize. And peace will allow me to handle this negative thing in a better, more efficient, or whatever way you want to go to create what kind of result. And so that's a very powerful situation to know that negative things can happen, but I need to be at peace in order to handle them effectively.
Mm. That's powerful. Yeah. So I really hope, like I always emphasize, whatever podcast that I put out with people like Richard and all the other great guests that I always had, uh, I always urge you listeners, to take notes and, keep records of whatever that you're listening, because everybody hear differently. Everybody makes sense of reality differently. So it's really, really important when you're listening to such information, you're taking notes and, and get back to it later on, because what you're going to see, I promise you, you will never expect it. You're going to see something powerful, you know. So just that was just a little break adverts of
That's all right, Goldie. And here's the thing I want to add, and this can really assist them. I have step one, what's called step one, step two, and actually step three, which is my book, which is this, but you are not your brain. But step one and two, I get into this and I explain this like I'm sharing with you. And step two, I have the order to life, the circle, the matrix. But it's all online. In other words, when you hear me in step one explain what's going on, you can download the script. You can have it. You can have my words. You don't have to copy or anything. And the circle as well. You can download it. I want everyone to have the information. Okay. So all these things we're talking about can be theirs by simply going to my website, richwaldman.com. It's all right there and you can download it.
Perfect. We're gonna have it. We're gonna link it in the description, in the video description, so everybody can have access to it. And also, Richard's information is gonna be also in the description. If you wanna contact Richard and get in touch with him, you're welcome to do so, because this is priceless. You usually had to pay thousands to access this kind of information, but now with digital age, we have it right in, not even in it's well, how can I say it? It's not even a words to describe how information is so available to us in this day and age. So
And also too, someone once told me, he says, Rich, whatever you do or whatever, make sure a fifth grader can understand it. And
mm,
that was the whole thing too. Yeah, yeah. Glody, have you ever heard of a Zingo? You know what a Zingo is?
Zingo.
A, a Zingo.
For
It's
me.
information flying over your head at supersonic speeds. Okay, in other words, you hear something, you go, I heard it, but I'm not quite sure exactly what it meant. And anytime we get out of our element, I mean, anytime I'm out of my element and people are talking about something, oh, I heard it. Hey, can you say that again? Because we learn
Yeah.
through repetition.
Mm,
And I always encourage people, I don't care if you have to ask me 10 times or 50 times. It doesn't matter. I want you to understand what's going on and not be fearful of thinking that I think you're dumb because you're asking me the questions. See, that's the thing. We don't want people to judge us.
yeah.
And that's probably they see people are afraid to get up and speak. Well, because we're afraid of being judged.
Mm,
And who do we judge more than anyone else? Ourselves. And
yeah.
so judgment is incredibly powerful. it keeps us where we are. And as I say, judgment is all about being right. Because if I can make you wrong, it makes me right. So we have to be conscious about the judgment. I had a situation not long ago. A fellow, I had somebody doing some work in my house, and we're talking, and one thing led to another. He says he had a son who was autistic, and that's when they have a hard time speaking, communicating, and things of that nature. And I says, "How's he doing?" "Oh, okay, okay." And I said, does he have any hobbies?" He says, or any likes. He goes, "Well, yeah, he likes to paint." I says, "Really, paint?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "I have an idea for you. I'm in Florida. We have a lot of retirees, okay?" He says, "I'm sure there's maybe senior groups out there. People are getting, together to paint, and they've got the time now." And I said, "See if you can plug into them. And if you do, can explain about your boy. You would like to, introduce him to the group." And he said, "Well, what would that?" I said, "Because now he can talk about what he loves to talk about. He's not being quizzed or go through this exercise." And he says, "I never thought of that." So he did. And we ran into each other later. He says, "Richard, it works. He's talking to these people about painting." And so he's not do this exercise, speak this way, act this way. And so I said, the main thing is to get him out there, just get him going. And he says, it's true. It broke the barrier. So once again, it comes down to what is it you love to do? What
Yeah.
does it love you? And here's the other thing. Here's another, you talk about a power statement. We could change the world right here, right now, if we did two very simple things. If we stopped judging each other and started supporting each other.
Yeah. All right, Richard, that was amazing, and I really appreciate that insight you brought. So moving on, I want to ask you another very important question. What does, um, or let me put it in this way, what role does fear play in keeping people trapped inside their mental loops?
What keeps them trapped?
What role does fear play in keeping people trapped
Oh, it's
inside their
huge.
mental? Yeah.
It's huge. For example, but what is fear linked to? The fear is linked to the future.
Mm,
Okay, so it's and here's the thing that I've learned over the time, and it works. My mother used to be very judgmental and neurotic, and as much as I didn't like it, I grew up like her. Now I didn't do it the way she did it, but I still was, judgmental, and I worried and all this stuff. And as I was getting involved in this, I thought I came across this biblical. It's real simple. The Father doeth the work. The
mm,
Father doeth the work. And I go, well, gee whiz, I guess that means whatever's going on or whatever, you've got to turn it over to the universe or God or whatever it is you believe in. And so I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm going to test this out. So
mm,
the next time I came up or I was worrying about, I think I was in college, and something that had to do with grades is always, grade driven. I'm going to do the best I can, and you know what? I'm going to let it go. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to think about it at all and see what happens. And as it turned out, the result was good. And many times our greatest fear are never realized. And so, but it's, if you understand this dynamic, and what I learned was this part is really powerful. And as I started practicing, okay, I was in a situation, hey, Richard, you got to let it go. Lord, it's yours. I'm
mm.
out of here. And and when the answer finally revealed itself, it may not have been the answer I was looking for. Let's say I want a situation A, but situation B was delivered to me. But I often found out is that situation B turns out better than A. and
Mm.
and and had I not let it go, now I find myself going down a different road that I never would be going down had I not trusted the universe. And so, in other words, do the best you can, whatever you're doing. Okay, you don't know the answer to let it go. Let
Yeah.
the universe do the work. Let the universe, and usually it works out pretty good. Or if it doesn't work quite the way you want it, now you're doing something else. Hey, you know what? I never would have done this, but you know what? This is good too. Matter of fact, it's even better. And so now what I'm doing, see, I can be at peace then. Once I let it go, I can be at peace
Yeah.
because it's like me giving you the ball. You've got the ball, Goldie. You're the one that's going to make the shot. I don't have to worry about it at the moment because you've got the ball.
Yeah.
And so that simple dynamic of do the best you can, do what you love. You're always going to run into little roadblocks. And when you do, let it go. Let the universe do its work and watch what happens. And you'll be amazed. It's as simple, but it's very, as you would say, very, very powerful. But once again, the whole thing is to be able to live life and be at peace with yourself. But
Yeah.
you can't be at peace with yourself when you're angry, upset, and depressed.
Mm, mm.
Real simple stuff. But there again, we have to be aware and we have to be willing to use these tools, tips and techniques. We have to be
Yeah.
willing to use them. But there again, too, the chatter doesn't want you to because it wants to keep you where you are.
Mm.
It wants you to be worried. It wants you to be upset. It wants you to be depressed.
Yeah. True to that. That is another. I know I keep saying, powerful stuff because it is powerful. I know some
It
people
is.
saying, yeah, you always say powerful stuff, powerful. Yes, it is powerful. And Richard, this is amazing. So, um, as we going to the end, um, I want to get a little bit practical. Let's say someone receive a criticism at work, some critics, at work, or in a workspace or something like that. So I'm gonna request from you if you're able to walk us through what typically happens inside the mind versus what is actually happening in reality.
Well, it's real simple. Once again, too, it's number one is you've got to be aware. You've got to be aware that our personality has evolved in more than one direction. Because if you can't internalize that or support, then really you have nowhere else to go. It's like I'm giving you a map, but it's got one road. Well, this road it's a dead end. Well, it's time to get off. That's it. You're over. It's done. You have nowhere else to go. But if you come to a fork in the road, now you have a choice.
Mm,
So, and once again, we have to, be aware that once again, our brain is not who we are. You are not your brain.
yeah.
And there again, but the only way you're going to discover this, to understand this, if you're living life. If you sit on the couch and never have a thought about anything, you're not going to be aware of any of this stuff. But
Mm,
there again, there's a difference between being alive and living life, and that is following what you love, addressing a fear.
mm,
This fear comes up. And when I'm coaching, and I can tell there's hesitation and fears in somebody, and my question always is, look, I says, if it doesn't work out, are you going to get hurt? Is it going to cost you money? No, let's give it a shot. See, but there again, Chloe, that goes back to supporting each other and
mm,
supporting ourselves. If we stop judging each other and start supporting each other. So if I say there's fear with you, but here, I'm here to support you. Let's do it together.
yeah.
Let's do it. See, that's the thing. That some of that little edge. It's like you at a horse race. You hear the term. He won by a nose. He won by a nose. A little,
Yeah.
and that sometimes we don't need a big step. Just a little ledge to stand on to
Yeah.
take us to that next level. I don't have to have that big step. That little edge is enough to keep me going.
Mm,
Okay. But see, you've got to want that. And that's the thing that, I can't create, you can't create it for anybody else, nor can I. They have to want that. But once again, I find themselves people that if you're doing what you love, you're more inclined to step out of yourself. And I'm going to leave you with one final thought is to use the the power that the good Lord gave us. Some years ago, I was in California.
mm,
I'm in Florida now. I have what's called WordPress. It's the software on your computer. Well, it enables you to go ahead and post things and do things. Well, my guy who handled, my software, WordPress, Rich, hey, I'm moving, I'm getting out of the business. One thing led to another. And I said, oh, gee whiz, well, can you refer me to somebody? He said, well, no, he didn't have a referral. Anyway, bottom line, I was, what do I do? I need to find somebody. So my wife was there and she says, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to go online here. And there's I guess it's still there. It's a website called Meet Up, MEET up. Like you're meeting somebody, Meet Up. So I went on Meet Up and I put a WordPress consultant and a seminar popped up. A WordPress actually was a seminar for WordPress developers.
Yeah.
So it's a higher end, type seminar. And so I was, oh, hey, and I've shared it with my wife. She said, well, how's that going to help you? I said, well, I'm going to go to it. And I was about, 65 miles south of San Francisco where it was. And she said, well, it's for developers. How are you going to meet somebody? And I said, I have an idea and you're going to help me. And she says, oh, she loved to work with paper. Okay. Make cards and all these kinds of things. Says, how can I help you? She says, I want you to make me a sign. And I says, well, what's that sign going to say? I says, it's going to say, help, seeking WordPress consultant. Okay. So she's, okay, so here's the sign, Lottie. Can you see this?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom line, she made this is the sign. And bottom line, I put it around my neck. When I walked into the seminar, this was around my neck. And there was a ton of people. There was well over 100 people. And people started turning and pointing and smiling. Next thing I know, they're lining up, giving me their cards.
Wow.
Rich, call me. Rich, call. I'd love to help you. I never said a word. A few minutes later, hey, we're going to start the seminar.
Mm.
I'm going, I walked out with a stack of cards like this. I never said a word.
Wow.
So we can communicate in a number of different ways. But there again, we have to use that imagination and we have to be curious.
Mm. Mm.
Wanting to step out, try new things, and it works. So there's and so anyway, I cannot emphasize this anymore. But use your creativity. That's one of the most powerful things we can see.
Yeah.
You can't build it if you can't see it.
Mm. Mm.
I don't care what it. If you don't see it in your head, you can't build it. So, but as I was talking to my wife, this picture started evolving, developing, and here I saw, hey, wait a minute, I think I got something, and it worked. So that's all. Stay curious. Stay curious. Use your imagination. That's the most powerful thing the good Lord gave us, and be happy.
Amazing. Amazing. That was so powerful. That was so super, super, super powerful. And if you're listening, that is one of the best messages that you can grasp from this episode. Use your imagination. Use your mind. Use what the creator, the universe, the Lord has given to you for free. I mean,
We're
it's it doesn't cost you anything to have that. So it's really for free. And I just remember because I love listening um to the recording called the Strangest Secret in the World by um, Nightingale. So he also emphasized somehow that concept of, we have he said, we love to pay money for the things that are not worthy, but the things that are super valuable to us, we got them for free, but we don't use them. So yeah, your imagination, your brain, your willpower, your um your understanding, your creativity, all of that, you got it for free. Use them, and they will produce the best fortune for you. And yeah, so thank you so much, Richard, for all of this valuable information you brought to Lokum Podcast. I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Personally, I learned a lot, and I hope people that are listening, you know, they also learn quite a lot of things from this episode. I believe that they did, and yeah. So, any
Well,
last
well,
words?
and I just want to conclude this one thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have fun. Go out there and have fun. Enjoy your life. You know, just real quick, Lily, they say that the odds of you and I and everyone else being on this planet is I don't know how they came up with this number. It's 400 trillion to one that we are here right now on this planet alive. We beat the odds, Lily. We beat the odds. Okay, so what are you going to do with the time while you're here? You beat the odds.
Mm, mm, amazing. Hey, there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. And yeah. So Richard, I'm gonna have you give out some of the information where people can find you, where people can interact with you, your work, and all that.
Yeah, it's real simple. My website is richwaldman.com. And it connects me to Facebook, my videos, tutorials. And once again, the information basically I'm sharing with you is the scripts are on my website that you can download and make it your own. So there's, how do I say excuse? Well, I didn't understand it. Well, it's right there for you. It's right there for you, so you can download it and try it out. You know, sometimes it's the hardest thing is taking that first step. You know, and but see, here's the thing, and I keep going back to it. I keep harping on it. Is supporting each other. If you can find, in other words, a group. Of course, we've got the internet. That people are doing what you want to do or think about doing. Seek them out, and don't judge yourself about not knowing because in most cases somebody helped them.
Yeah.
Somebody helped them. One of the questions I'll ask is if I'm want to do something or want to know something. Real quick here, there's a formula I use: exposure, comfort, relationships, business. In other words, I want to go out and meet you. God, I want to be on that side of the fence where you are. Well, I need to know you. I need to learn about, and you need to know me, develop that relationship. Because when you have that relationship, a question I would say to you, Lily, you know what I'm about. Because yeah, I want to be where you are.
Mm,
If you were me, what would you do for me to get where you are?
mm,
Questions are powerful, but if you ask the right questions,
yeah.
if you were me, what would you do to get where you are?
Oh,
So that's the other thing is networking, you know, thinking of questions. Questions are powerful, they can be powerful. But there again, too, if you're not curious and using your mind, it'll never happen.
powerful stuff. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. 100% right. Excuse me. Please, everybody out there,
Mm.
if you're listening, I was I'm always going to emphasize on that. Um I know Richard has some good stuff for you you can download, but again, make sure you're still taking up your own notes and making sense of reality the way you should. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, Richard, for coming on board. I really
Oh, hey,
appreciate
it was
your time.
fun. It was real. It was fun. It was real fun. Anytime, hey, you want to revisit this? I'd love to get together with you anytime.
Amazing.
And I appreciate you connecting with me.
Amazing. Appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. And yeah, for this episode, that's the end. And please do share this episode to anyone that you feel like they want to listen to it. And of course, don't forget to rate this podcast. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, please do give it a thumbs up. And you can comment your insight and whatever that you feel like you want to discuss, because I do visit each and every comment. I love interacting with you guys. And yeah, thank you so much. If you do that, it's going to help this episode to expand and reach the right people. That's how the algorithm works. And we are in the time that the algorithm is not making any kind of mistake. the content that you're supposed to hear. It's right there in your face. So make sure you do that, and appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody. Thank you so much, Richard, and shall see you on the next one.
God bless. Thank you too.
Amazing.